We did it. We are the occasional but absolutely weekly podcast, Market Fire. This is episode 78. I am Danny Deals, a.k.a. Danny Bombay. I'm joined, as always, by El Large Mano over here.
That's right.
I'm in my third studio of the year. I should be here for a brief period of time.
So you're coming from us from live from the Space Center, right?
Correct.
Like the International Space Station, right?
No, this is SpaceX's intergalactic headquarters.
There you go.
Yeah, I was launched up here in a Tesla Roadster. So
there you go. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Today, as always, we are going to run down a bunch of the most interesting business stories of this week.
At least that we find interesting.
Well, yeah. Big man, they know it's what we find interesting. Nobody cares about what other people think. Not on this podcast, anyway.
That's very true.
All right. So, Apple, after spending decades just remixing these same old products, is actually going to come out with something new.
New's a strong word because you could buy something similar to this from the Sky magazine.
Yeah, Sky Mall. Let me run this down. And then Tesla and Ford ink a really dramatic deal. I think this foreshadows further partnership and development and something. And 1-800 Jenny Craig. I'm sorry, 1-800 Jenny's dead. Jenny Craig, the commercials that permeated my youth.
Yeah.
Dead. We're going to get into that.
Yep.
A follow-up story from a previous story we did about Subway. Turns out Subway is looking for a suitor. So I'm going to take them to the dance. The big one. And then they want to cuddle afterwards. Oh, Subway. I got one story in here. I don't know if we're going to get to it, but Damon John did a Shark Tank deal. Oh, surprise! He's a jerk. And then Twitter is a new incoming CEO, and another speculation about an acquisition. Amazon is going to end up owning Dish Network, and we'll get into all of that. But hey, listen, I just want to remind everybody out there, we're just going to start off with this piece of wisdom, this piece of advice. Any restaurant can be a drive-through if you believe in yourself and you gain enough velocity. That's all you need. Two things.
Okay, stop listening to what Danny says. Okay, can we just get that out there? I'm going to make a shirt that just says Market Fire Podcast. Stop listening to what Danny says because no.
What I just said, hold on. What I just said is in fact the truth. With enough velocity, every restaurant is a drive-through.
Well, okay, sure. Yes, with the right velocity. Anyway, can we get into the stories, please?
Yeah. So Apple is making a AR headset. It's not a VR headset. What is that, right?
Well,
it's a mixed reality.
Yeah, they're calling it mixed reality. Look, they're trying to throw all these terms, right? We've talked about the difference between VR, AR, virtual reality versus augmented reality. Now they're trying to throw this term mixed reality because they're trying this stepping stone. And who knows which one of these terms is actually going to stick long term. This is one of those that Danny pulls up that it's a story, but it's kind of not a story. Here's the deal.
Right. They're charging $3,500. Right. I think that's a story.
But that's what makes it to me nobody's buying $3,500 AR glasses from Apple.
Wrong.
Well, look, they'll sell them, but look, the 3D glasses for televisions were supposed to be the next big thing, but they were so expensive that your average family was not going to buy them. $3,500 for an Apple product, nobody's going to buy.
Here's the thing, right? Here's what we know as humans, okay? As business people, here's what we know. Apple, some other company makes a kettle. Apple acquires the company, says this is now the Apple iKettle, and it integrates with your iPhone in our walled garden ecosystem. Triple the price. That's it.
They definitely have a loyal following, and there will be people out there with money that are willing to buy this, give it a shot, and then set it in their office and use it when friends come over because it's kind of cool. But so there will definitely be those people. But as far as getting in your average home, which is when you penetrate the market, this is not it. It's a step in that general direction. And here's the deal. the one that will make it into this really eventually, whether it's Meta, whether it's Apple, whoever, it will be because of a combination of gaming and television, right? Movies and television. This one right here, it's a $3,500. Again, I mentioned Sky Mall Magazine earlier. They've had Sky Mall Magazine. You could buy glasses that gave you a 100-inch screen TV or whatever it was.
I don't even know what this thing does. I didn't even look into it too much. I just saw the Vision Pro headset, and it was $3,500. And I thought, in so much of my life, I drove cars that were worth $3,500, and some idiot in Austin at his apartment in the Domains, we're like, I live right next to Whole Foods. He's gonna be sitting there with a stupid $3,500 headset on. It's gonna bother me.
Well, but see here, there are some differences. They've tried to make it different. I mean, these look like scuba diving goggles, right? Instead of glasses, which is, again, it's a stage. Something's got to hold the processor and all the, you know what I mean, the hardware. But they did make the end of it where current virtual reality, like the Quest and stuff, it's a headset, but you can't see your eyes through it, right? It's a big blocky thing. Where this, you can see the person's expression through the goggles, which again, that does make it a little bit more. And that's what makes it augmented reality versus virtual reality, right? Is you can see through them and see your surroundings and all this kind of stuff. And look, so this is a step in the right direction. I just don't know that it's a big step in the right direction because nobody knows how this is going to land. Now, in this story, all the things about Apple you would think. To switch this from virtual reality to augmented reality, you have to have an Apple Watch, an Apple phone. You have to have something like that to control it because it has no controllers like the virtual, headsets out there. It will only work with Apple TVs, iPads, Apple phones. So if you want to watch a video, a movie, a whatever, you have to combine those, and you're essentially using it like a television screen, right? You know what I mean?
Because didn't they do a deal with Disney as part of this?
They have a deal with Disney to eventually watch movies, but this essentially was made as a focus on video consumption platform.
Okay.
Right? And if right now your focus for this product is a video consumption platform, right?
Right.
Are people out there spending $3,500 for a big screen TV? Right? That only one person can watch at a time.
Right. I'm not. But I don't own any Apple products as of yet. But here's why this story, like you said, it's a non-story. Here's why I think it is a story. Since the timely passing of Steve Jobs, who was just a massive douchebag to everybody he worked with, which I hate that Steve Jobs' success influenced so many other people to think, well, if I'm just a dick to everyone, I'm going to become a billionaire. It's like, no. He did ayahuasca and shrooms, and he was a dick to everybody.
Right.
And that's what kind of, but since his passing, can you name a single product that Apple has come out with where you go, oh, that's innovative?
Yeah, and that is the key. The innovation is the key. And again, yes, I think this is a step in that direction. You are right. If I looked at it from that standpoint, here's the first major innovation.
They're taking a risk here.
Yeah, but it's not a product that I don't even think it's intended to be a product that they try to sell to everybody. I think this is the Google Glasses experiment where you get instead of paying a bunch of people to try out your product, you're getting them to pay you to try out your product and then take all of that data, right? All the complaints, all the user data and whatever, and build the next product from it.
So historically, the thing that has made Apple a successful business with billions and billions of dollars of cash that they're sitting on, potentially the trillion of the T, right, is that they did something very different than other companies. They kind of took a back seat in the marketplace, looked at what trends were emerging, took the trends that were emerging, really, they integrated the systems better, just made fine tweaks to products that, and brought them to market, and then became category standards, right? The iPod, like I had a non-iPod MP3 player, and within 1 year, it was obsolete because everyone that I went to junior high with had an iPod.
Well, that's what they did. It's the marketing and the loyalty that they created, the brand loyalty that they created is why you want their products. That's still true today. 90% of the products that are out in the consumer world that are Apple products are not, the specs on them from a technical standpoint are not as good as their Android counterparts.
So what I'm driving at here is this is a risky product for Apple. Now, what I think that means is their ability to become not category standards. I think that's waning, and I'll use this analogy. Your old man, I obviously, you and I got to know each other long after his time on this planet, but I'm assuming he had a loyalty to a certain car brand, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Car brand loyalty used to be a massive thing in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
70s, 80s, 90s. My granddaddy came to this country in the 70s, and he never owned anything but a GM product, right?
Right.
Oldsmobiles. But here's the thing. His sons and daughters went out and bought Toyotas, and he's like, we live, he's an immigrant to this country. He's like, we live in America. We must buy their stuff. Like, we have to. But at the end of the day, like, people start dealing in reality because reality bites hard, as you've said before. And you go, why am I paying $3,500 for this thing that won't integrate with any other only integrates with its own ecosystem? And at some point, people just get to a juncture where they're like, yeah, who cares about this Apple products? So I think my generation, so millennials, are going to be like our grandparents and parents who are diehard loyal Ford people. I come from a Chevy family, like whatever that is. Like I still call myself a Chevy guy. My last 3 vehicles were Fords. So but I'm just saying I'm still a Chevy guy. But if someone's like, hey, you can go get a Ford Performance supercharger and I'm sticking onto a 5-liter F-150. Yeah, like I said, $700. I want that. So I just think that what this signals to me as a product is that Apple's reign as a company that defined categories, and it did it in this. The innovation wasn't the products. The innovation wasn't the integration. The innovation was the integration after everyone else launched. Listen, whenever I go on a date with a gal and she's like, "Oh, you have an Android?" I'm like, "Yeah, and in 10 years you'll have all the features I have right now."
That's right.
Right. You're gonna get wireless charging in 2027 or something. So what this signals to me is they have never really put out, since Steve Jobs went back to Apple and built Apple into what it is today, and built it into this tech juggernaut. And here's the thing: the way tech works is in disruption, right?
Right.
So Google is so different to Apple in how they develop product. Google will build something and be like, that doesn't work, we'll kill it.
Right.
How many Google chat apps have I lived through? Right?
Of course.
1,000 of them. I lived through Google Plus. I lived through Google Buzz. Right? There's no shortage of Google Wave. There's so many products. So this is the Googleification of Apple, because they're coming out with a product, like you just said. They're going to pay us, and we're going to experiment on them.
Right.
Now, going forward in this show, I'm going to be attaching memes to every story, and Big Man has to insert them. Because right here would be the meme of someone like, hey, when I was a kid, they're like, don't sit too close to the TV. And now they're like, strap the TV to your head.
That's a great thought right there. We did. We couldn't sit too close to the TV.
I have a nephew, and whenever we watch Paw Patrol, he starts standing up and walking towards the TV. I'm like, if you stand up, no, you can't do that. We're going to turn the television off.
Right.
And I'm like, but by the time he's 10, he's going to be strapping the daggone thing to his head. Right?
We have actually 2 stories today that make me, the conspiracy theory part of my brain gets going.
Which it doesn't work as well as my conspiracy.
No, it does not. I'm just saying that, with this release, it makes me think if Meta, Alphabet, and Apple were all communicating in some way and taking turns releasing these products, they all would benefit from the data that comes from the release of these products. Because if they all work together, just like Ford and Tesla later on in our next story, if they all start working together, these products come out faster, better, easier, right? Because they're sharing R&D. And they're sharing the cost of that R&D. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening here. No. I'm just saying that it gets my brain going because Google did its product early, right? The Google Glasses, and they all learned from that. I guarantee you that information is not only at Google. I guarantee you there's certain things that Apple learned from that Meta learned from that or whatever, and that they're using that to turn around and make a next product and the next product.
Yeah, so I think it's Jason Calcaney. I forget. I don't know how to say his name. From All In podcast. Some people will call them a competitor. I say they're the Hyundai to our Lexus. Mm-hmm. But he tweeted something like, if Meta took their Quest headset and co-developed something with Google, that would just be an annihilation level event for this Apple headset.
100%.
I cannot remember in my lifetime. So I lived through the rise of Apple as a cornerstone brand of like products that everybody uses. I lived through that. I can't remember a single flop of their products. Can you? Can you think of a single Apple product that flopped?
No, because they, like you said, have a tendency to not be very nimble. They buy into a product and they market it, just like you said earlier, the iPod, right? They bought in. There was the Zune.
That came after.
But I'm saying there was a billion MP3 players back in the day,
correct?
Made by a whole bunch of different people, and the only one that lasted was the iPod. Right? And because it was, we're not going to change it. We're going to shove it down your throat on and on and on.
And let me tell you something. I'm at a point in life where I'm like, I actually just want one thing that does my maps in my truck. I want another thing that does my music and podcasts. And I want another thing that does pictures. I don't want it all on the phone. Stop cramming more stuff into my phone.
I just want everything to play nicely. Right? That's all I care about, which is that's why you either have to have all Apple products or not because they don't play nicely. So that's me. I just want everything to play nicely. That's why I'm an Android guy, is because I can use almost anything and it all plays nicely.
100%.
But AirPods, all of these things they shove down your throat marketing wise, and they've got so much money for marketing and paying anybody and everybody to wear these products, right? Superstars and movie stars and put in movies and all. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into this next one. Tesla and Ford ink a deal for Fords to start using Tesla's supercharger network. Now, to the untrained eye, they say, oh, that's nice. I can charge my Mustang Mach-E, which the success of caused Tesla to lose a little stock value, change their prices, lower their prices to start competing.
Explain the Mustang Mach-E to me, because it looks like a minivan. It's ugly as all get out, and it's not a Mustang. It's not. There's nothing about that is a Mustang.
Right. So the Mustang Mach-E, let me explain to you very briefly. It's very simple. Mustang, popular brand, right?
Of course.
Globally, it is a popular, recognizable, this is a piece of Americana. Steve McQueen, backhanding abroad in a film, which you could do back then because that was a reasonable way to behave. Some of us long for those days. I'm not saying I do, but I'm just saying, so it's this globally popular brand. Everyone loves EVs, right? Everyone except 95% of the planet, and everyone who mines cobalt in Africa. Those people, not a huge fan of EVs, is my guess. And then you have this, every young lady saying, I don't want to be like my mom in a minivan, so I'm going to drive a crossover. because I'm going to put things in the back because I'm Joanna Gaines and I'm going to fix up my house. None of which is going to take place. Okay.
Right.
You're going to take your Shih Tzu to the dog groomer in your SUV, and that's the most you're ever going to haul in it. Listen, I drive a truck. I don't put anything in it ever. I know that. Like I remember I was looking at pickups. The guys like, well, do you need a long? But I was like, what for? What would I put? I'm not putting anything in this. 5.5 foot bed. I'm not putting anything in it.
But a Ford Mustang person, again, love the 60s Mustangs, right? Was not a Ford guy growing up. I was a Chevy guy. Yeah. But still, you had to respect the 60s and 70s Mustangs. They were gorgeous. And my buddy had a 1967 Mustang Fastback. It was gorgeous. Barely could see over the hood from the driver's seat because of how big those hoods were. But anyway, my point is, anybody that loves the Ford Mustang, traditionally, not a fan of this. I've yet to find a single Ford Mustang guy that's like, this is a great car.
And here's the reality of that. I agree with what you're saying. Here's the reality, right? I know people who are like, I want to buy a Jeep Wrangler, and then they go test drive it or rent one. I know somebody wanted one, so they rented it for a week. Mm-hmm. After 2 days, they're like, give it back. I don't want to buy one. I'm going to go buy, a Honda Pilot or whatever. I thought I was cool. But the reality is people like the concept of owning a Mustang. Now, I'm going to say something, and people are going to disagree with it, but EVs are the ultimate car for women. Because it takes all the stuff that men like in cars, the noise, the shape, everything, right? The visceral part of cars, and it makes the cute and polite and quiet. It's not making so much noise.
Okay, but
and it comes with the added benefit of getting to pretend like you're helping the environment when in actuality
you're not.
There are indentured servants in Africa.
Yeah.
Like mining cobalt in the most disgusting circumstances
with their hands, like literally with their hands,
and then sometimes women with babies in slings, and you're going, oh my goodness, this is going to be a mass cancer event, and you go, but they get all of it's the Tom's shoes of cars. Tom's shoes were stupid. Okay. They look dumb.
Danny's viewpoints
it was $70.
Danny's viewpoints do not represent the Market Fire podcast or the big man. He's being an ist right now. But look.
I'm not being anything. I'm just saying. So, because I'll put it to you this way. Now, I have a lot of family here in Texas. And all the gals are like, they're all of my cousins are girls, except for like 3 or 4 of them. So there's 20 of them, and they're sitting around the table like, we have to get EVs. We have to buy a Tesla to support the Texas, because they're a Texas company now. And I was like, Toyota's a Texas company.
Exactly.
Go buy a Tundra. Yeah. Built in San Antonio by people who you probably can go meet.
That's right. Built by Texans.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, look, I agree with you.
But what I was getting to though is the Mustang so the current generation Mustang was the first vehicle they built to go global. And what they realized is there's so many markets where they can't get the V8 in through their EPA, the other countries, environmental, you just can't. So they built it with a 4-cylinder, thinking that those markets where they put these huge taxes on the V8s, 80% of those markets bought V8s. Nobody wanted the stupid 4-cylinder that they put in. But what they realized is we have a brand here that the globe recognizes, and why not exploit that recognition by sticking the name on? That's all it was. It's as simple as that. But what's interesting about this tie-up between the two companies is that there's a reason Mach-E is an important brand, is important to the brand. Tesla attempted to register the trademark Model E so that he could have a Model S, a Model E, a Model X, a Model Y. Sexy.
Okay.
So that's the Model 3 was supposed to be the Model E. He just took the E and flipped it around. So the reason that happened is because Ford had the Model A, the Model T, and they fought in the trademark in a lawsuit to get the name Model E. So they had to use it. So and listen, so
the timing worked out with the Mustang E and okay.
Yeah. So here's what is interesting though for the uninitiated. We often think of these companies as always competing with each other. But the reality is right now, Toyota, the world's second or first largest auto manufacturer, has partnership agreements with BMW and Mazda. They're co-developing product with both companies. Ford, in this instance, has invested heavily into Rivian. But I'm going to tell you something. My guess, Ford is edging into, hey, does this partnership work? They're going to elevate the partnership. They're going to keep doing it. And at some point, what Tesla can benefit from is, companies like Ford, General Motors, they've been in the business so long, they just have legacy development costs that they don't have that Tesla does, right? They've done R&D. Jay Leno was talking about this when he had the guys from General Motors coming into his office, into his garage. He said they picked up a part off of his 55 Buick, and they go, "Oh, we still use this."
Right.
And
they have manufacturing down to a T. They can build a manufacturing plant like that.
The R&D part of it is something that they have the research. So here's all that happened. Elon made this business. He made EVs a thing, right? Mm-hmm. They're the gold standard, but there's so much competition incoming. They don't have legacy support. They don't have legacy income coming in from selling parts and all this other stuff, which is why they're so they're a walled garden when it comes to their
they're insulated.
Because they have to be. But here's what's interesting. Here's why I think Ford ends up in the long run acquiring Tesla. Now this is a wacky concept.
That is a wacky concept.
Fine, but it's out there. But this whole show is about making speculation so that in the future. Yeah. We can rewind, and I can be like, "Hey, Ron Paul was right about everything." Danny was right about everything. So, I have a couple articles here. The only thing that made is making Ford profitable right now, trucks.
Okay, hold on. Let's back up a second. Yeah. So again, the first news article was about Ford agreeing with Tesla to use their charging outlets. Now, Tesla in the beginning, obviously one of the first things Tesla had to deal with is where are you going to charge these cars, right? All over America. And because there's a gas station in every corner, but there's no electric, right? So Tesla had to go in big investment building these charging stations all over America. And then when Ford came out, you can't just use Tesla's software because charging's all about software, right? How much energy is going, how big the battery is, yada, yada, yada. So Ford came out with its own software and its own charging ports because everything has to be different, right? And this is where Ford goes, hey, people are now buying these electric trucks, electric cars, electric everything. Why don't we partner with an infrastructure that they've already heavily invested in, but we got to make compatible software. We got to be able to change our ports. And guess what? All the people out there that already have a Ford electric vehicle have to buy a connector to use these. Yes, and that's part of this article was, and they called it hundreds of dollars, which God knows what that means. But so if you want to use a Tesla charging station and you already have a Ford Lightning, right, you're going to have to buy an adapter, which, again, that will probably, as they go forward, they'll standardize. And there's already, look, this is why I say there's no reason for Ford to acquire Tesla. This is why I humbly disagree with you. There's no reason for Ford because Tesla from the beginning has been, hey, come talk to us. We'll share our EV ports with you. We'll share our software with you. We'll share these things. Why should Ford take on when Tesla's going to continue to do R&D on its own?
Right.
Why not sit back and go, let them shove millions, billions of dollars into this, and I'll just partner with them.
And I'll just license their development on the back end.
Exactly.
I agree with everything that you're saying. And the reason is simple as this. There's a gold standard when it comes to EVs, and it's Tesla. Now, their standard is garbage. It's not a very good, they're just not built well.
Correct.
But the point is, you can't, it's exactly what we were talking about in the first segment about Apple.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. People will overpay for something because it's a Tesla. Now, the people who are buying Mach-E's are trading in their Model 3s to get them. So that's a thing.
Sure. But this goes back to my conspiracy theory of if they were all secretly on the back end, General Motors, Ford, right, and Tesla, and all these, if there's this hotline between them going, hey,
so they're just sharing data.
You do this, you do this, you do this, and we're all going to still look like we're competing against each other. But you know what I mean? This benefits everybody.
Even in the situation of Ford and General Motors, they have a partnership agreement on heavy-duty truck transmission development. So the current 10 speeds in heavy-duty Fords and Chevys are branded two different brands, and they're tuned differently. But the point is, same components.
Well, but why wouldn't you do that? Look, if General Motors comes out with a brand new engine, Ford bought the second General Motors engine that came off the assembly line, brought it to their factory, and disassembled it. Right?
Of course,
it's called reverse engineering. They have been doing it to each other you can only keep something a secret until you start selling it to the masses, and then nothing stops the other company from buying it and reverse engineering it.
And that is true of, I think it was Chevy built a vehicle called the Chevy. It came to the United States as the Chevy SS, but it was originally in Australia. And they just bought an old BMW that was super popular, the BMW M5, the E39 M5. And they just said, how did they set up their suspension? All right, that's how we're going to sit. Like, what are you going to do?
Exactly, which is, to me, why I don't know how any car ends up being a lemon in today's world, because there's so much of that available. Why wouldn't you just continue to...
No, this is what I just mentioned about Toyota developing vehicles with BMW. Toyota's standards were so rigorous that they blew up the engine, the straight six engine that they used for the Supra. They blew it up so many times, and they fixed all the problems with it, that BMW is now the second most reliable car in the luxury segment because Toyota. And so, and the reason, like I was saying all this is, the reason I believe this is going to happen, and you stop me, let me just finish my thought.
I apologize. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Ford is losing about $60,000 on every EV it sells. All right?
Go ahead, finish your thought before I interrupt again.
Right. And the only thing that is keeping Ford profitable are ICE pickup trucks, right? And so there's another article I put in here.
Internal combustion engines, legacy engines.
Right. Good technology, not bad EV technology. And then Tesla won a court case and can now, they're going to keep winning these court cases throughout the country to go direct to market. Now, the reason all of that matters is Ford wants to sell direct to its customers. It doesn't want to keep dealing with this. So if it continues partnership with Tesla and eventually goes into the acquisition of Tesla, it can start adopting a direct sales channel for its company. And it's not that it's Tesla's going to win these court cases and it's going to help every company sell direct to their customer. But the reason I think it's going to happen is if Ford is looking at how do we continue to capture market share, why would we sit here and compete when we can collude, which is why they did this partnership. This is after the two companies were in a lawsuit with each other over the name Model E. So here's the thing. I want to make this point regarding free markets. You and I can hate each other a lot. You can be like, you can hate me for whatever reason. I can be like, I don't like people with cowboy hats, whatever it is, right? And I can dislike you for whatever reason you can imagine. But the minute there's money to be made, all that goes out the window. Like, you're a different religion, I don't care. So, you're wearing a cowboy hat, I don't care.
Okay, well, that's what makes you and I capitalists, right? Like, so.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple of things. So
these two, literally, I'm just saying, these two literally got done fighting each other. They're like, you want to go make some money together? That's it.
Exactly. 100%. Fighters in boxing, they're making money as they're sitting up there competing against each other. That's why they're there, right?
Right.
Look, couple of things that Danny and I disagree on occasion. A couple of things. And first of all, Ford losing money on every electric vehicle.
That's nothing new.
But this is how business works. I make money over on this arm of my business because I'm losing it on this because this is research and development. Look, Ford only made and sold 12,000 cars in this first quarter that you're using that math off of. Okay? Yeah. Versus they sold 200,000 Ford F-150s in the same quarter. I mean, so we're
Right.
talking a tiny little. This is
Right,
a Ford E, right? You and I talked
Yeah.
about it when Ford split up into Ford
yeah,
Blue,
Ford Blue and
Ford
Ford
E,
something else.
and then
Okay.
Ford One or something else like that,
Yeah.
right? And the point is when they created that, part of that was that insulation. They wanted to
Right.
show a loss on the EV part, so they didn't
Right.
show a loss on. And guess
The main
what? In
business.
that same quarter, their legacy Ford Blue, right?
Yeah.
Internal combustion engines, they made $267 million.
Right.
And this product lost, I'm sorry, $2.67 billion.
$1 billion.
And the EV market lost $700 million. So again, they still made $2 billion in the same.
Right, and the point is, like, the reason they're putting it's because it's a loss leader, right? They're losing
Right.
money on it. But the point is, people are driving around, and I see. Listen, man, I'm up in DFW. I see people driving electric cars all the time. I'm not saying I spit on them and say go back to California, because that would be a disgusting thing to do. But if I
Right.
did do that, I would be justified.
Well, and you also mentioned that Tesla, again, these are Q1 2023, right?
Right.
That Tesla Model Y is declared the world's top selling vehicle
Right.
because they sold 267,000 of them in the first quarter.
Right.
But and Toyota being right behind that. I think Toyota Corolla being right behind that
Right.
worldwide.
Yeah.
But okay, we're talking about one quarter. We're not talking about, this is not something that's lasted the last 10 years
Right.
like Ford and Toyota and all these others. This is one quarter where, there wasn't a whole lot out there to buy on the market.
Right.
And anyway, so I don't know that that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And as far as the direct sale model, this is in, what was it, Delaware? Yeah, Delaware.
Right. Yep.
So Delaware Supreme Court, and this is again where I disagree with you, because Ford would have to. I do agree with you that Ford wants, every manufacturer would love to sell
Wants
direct to
sell it
consumer.
direct, right.
Would love to cut out car dealerships entirely, because it's just a
Right.
middleman, right? It's a middleman
Right.
markup. It's an extra cost in
Right.
addition to the American public, right? Whatever.
Right.
Every manufacturer would love to get rid of them. However, we've talked about before, most states have laws in place that
Franchise
protect,
laws.
right?
Right.
However, here's where the Delaware Supreme Court, and when I say Ford would love to do it, but they're not going to be able to do it in the way that Tesla has, the reason the Delaware Supreme Court sided with Tesla, according to what they put out, right? And me,
Right.
I love to dig and find, all right, why did they say this? Right?
Right.
Is they said that Tesla does not fall as a business model, does not fall in the category of the other previously created Ford, General Motors, or whatever.
Because it's an all electric.
Well, no, they're just their business model. They just say
Okay.
you don't fall into the franchise business model. Tesla doesn't have franchises. They don't have, right? So because they never
Right.
went into the model as the traditional
That's
dealerships
why they
have,
won. Okay.
that's why they won. They didn't say, hey, Tesla, you can do this just because you want to. They found a legal loophole saying that they don't follow the business model. So for Ford to say, hey, I want to go just because Tesla is, I want to be this way, they would have a much harder legal time, because they would have to completely change their model and fight the legal battle that you're only changing it to cut us out.
Right. That's fair.
Right, so Tesla, so Ford and General Motors and these other dealerships that are stuck in dealerships aren't going to be able to use the Tesla legal loopholes that may or may not work in every state. Right, they work in
Right.
Delaware, but Delaware is obviously, there's a lot of businesses that are set up in Delaware because they're very business friendly. Right,
And
and
like
whatever.
here in Texas, if you buy a Tesla, it comes from a Native American reservation in New Mexico.
Right, well, Texas
Yeah.
has again, every state very different.
Right. Texas has very strong franchise laws, which I think is so. I'm a free market guy, and I go, I think that the franchise dealer model will continue to exist, and I think it's going to be like Target. A guy's going to have Dave's dealership down off the highway, and he's going to be like, yeah, like I only have the good cars, like, because if most dealers in the franchise business will tell you, they end up with a situation where it's like, oh, you want a good car? Great. You're going to take 12 of them that we don't want.
Right, you're going to take this package and you're going to like it.
And the only reason we built these cars that nobody wants is because we have a unruly, unreasonable contract with a labor union that says we have to provide X number of hours. The demand is not there for 4-cylinder, 2-wheel drive Chevy Colorados with single cab. But we got to build a bunch of cars, so they just build those, hoping fleet buyers will come along and buy it.
Well, and in a state like Texas, and I only know this because I know a couple of people that own dealerships here in Texas. In a state like Texas, it's even quote unquote worse than just that. The package deals, they actually, when you become a certain size dealership from a volume standpoint, for General Motors or whatever to continue to contract with them, Bob's, right? Dodge dealership or Bob's GMC or whatever to continue to contract with them, they have annual minimum orders for you to keep your contract. So once you reach a certain size, you not only have to buy in packages, you have a minimum amount that you're buying that year,
of course,
regardless of your sales.
Right. So, but the events of 2020 kind of helped them.
Sure.
It shifted a lot of how people do business. But nonetheless, I think we've completed. I think that's done, right? Is that everything? We got the whole story.
Yeah, there? That's the Tesla Ford that's going on right now. But more broadly, the EV stuff, as you and I talk about, this is going to be an ongoing, obvious topic in our stories because it's going to continue to come up and how that kind of stuff works.
Do you want to just skip the Jenny Craig story, or do you want to do it?
Well, the Jenny Craig story, we can quickly. I don't think there's any debate to this.
There's much to say.
It's dead at this. Jenny Craig is dead. She's been around for decades. All right.
And here's your big mistake. Hey, fitness inspiration models on flipping Instagram. How many of them were you paying? 0? Were you paying 0 of them? Did you have 0? Like you had none. You had no influencers. But
it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people going out of work. I will say that Jenny Craig. Yes, it was started back in the day by 500 hospitals across the nation. Right. That's how Jenny Craig started. It was started by 500 hospitals going, "Hey, let's put together a eat better workout program."
Why is it called Jenny Craig?
Because that was the original star that you see what I'm saying, that the whatever. But here's where they didn't, and much like we talked about a lot on this, the ability to pivot, right, is what finally put the nail in the coffin for Jenny Craig is the newer weight loss drugs that have been out the semaglutide one or whatever it's called, Wegovy, Ozempic,
it's all the
Saxenda.
same thing,
But here's where Jenny Craig didn't, that Weight Watchers and some of the others have. Weight Watchers has already, a couple of months ago, about the time, not just rebranded, but they've taken on and partnered with these phone call doctor offices where they're getting, as part of their program, you get on Ozempic, you get on whatever, because they've now partnered with Weight Watchers doctors that you call them instead of going to your doctor, and they know what you're there for, right? So they're making these partnerships where Jenny Craig was like, no, we're still doing the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just couldn't keep up. And to me, that's a little, it's hard to see an old business die, to me.
No.
Danny finds it hilarious.
Yeah, of course. Are you getting the Ozempic in the bum?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I was just saying, I'll just stop emailing them to be a sponsor. Okay. Oopsie daisy. All right.
Hey, we can do it together. We can do it. Yeah. No.
It'll go on our Patreon. We'll
I got a neighbor on it. I got a neighbor on it.
My doctor told me he can get it for me if I wanted it.
Well, there's obviously, and look, this is a hot topic right now. Obviously, we could do a whole story on this, but insurance companies, it's obviously very expensive. You have to have health conditions like pre-diabetes or diabetes or whatever. My doctor actually talked to me about it, but I have none of those. So my doctor was like, you would just have to pay for it. Like you... Yeah,
okay, but if it's for the show, if it's for our Patreon...
Oh, for the show, sure. Why not? I don't give a crap. You know what I mean? I'll pay the $1,200 a month or whatever it is for the show. We'll track for 6 months. Yeah, and if you and I both die, it'll be like the vaccines. Who knows?
There goes the show. We
there
just
got the show. Right there.
We're only on Twitter now. We're live only on Twitter now. All right.
I didn't mean that, by the way. Triple, quadruple vex. I'm all good.
I got none of them, and I'm out here living life, man.
I'm all good.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So we'll
What's the
see
next
about
door?
it. Yeah, we'll see about that in 10 years. So I find this fascinating. We had talked about Subway developing vending machines, and we
Yes.
thought it was so innovative, and they're the forefront of. They're going out of business, and they needed it sooner. They're not actually going out of business, but
No.
Subway, as of a few months ago, was looking for a huge venture capital firm or private
Mm-hmm.
equity firm to come in and acquire them. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in the crazy wide world of legacy brands, there are these companies, Bain Capital, the former CEO, the former presidential candidate, was a partner at Bain
Yeah.
Capital. There's these huge venture capital firms. Here's the thing about venture capital firms. Yes, do they raise private money? Of course. Do they also have tons of debt? Yes. Like
Oh, of course.
they're borrowing like crazy to fund a lot of deals. But basically, what is happening is
It's buying companies on options. I mean, it's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like we do it as individuals as well.
Right. And so, like, for instance, let me make this like, there's what is it called? Yum Brands, right?
Yeah.
What most Americans don't realize is that there's all these different fast food chains and franchises out there in the world. And there's like 6 companies that own all of them.
Then there's 6. I think it's either 5 or 6 venture
Yeah.
capitals that not only, especially from the food side, not just franchises like
Right.
Burger King and whatever you would think of, but
Right.
also food brands in your stores. They're all made Nestle. These are all owned by like 5 or 6 venture capitalists that own all the competing brands that you think are competing.
Right.
That are all made by the same people.
So, for instance, if you've ever wondered why they have those combination Pizza Hut Taco Bells, it's because the same company owns Pizza Hut and Taco Bell.
Absolutely.
Hey, quick question. How did Taco Bell license the Dorito to make the Dorito Loco Taco? Oh, guess what?
Owned by the same company.
They're all owned by the same people.
They're all making the same money, just buying it from each other.
Correct. So there's right here in the article, TDR Capital, a company that Subway is hoping will acquire them, owns Mendocino Farms. I don't know what that is. It sounds like a crack farm somewhere in California, but they also own Burger King, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening is these huge companies come in, they do cost cutting, and they figure out, okay, we have the Taco Bell over here and we have the Pizza Hut over here. We can go to the same 2 or 3 food suppliers, develop contracts with them, and we're going to be buying crazy volume. And
they figure out partnerships and streamlining and ways to save money for them, but keep the price the same for you. So they increase their profit margins by increasing. The problem that Subway is having and will have, I think you have 2 things. 3 things. Subway as a brand has taken a lot of hits in the last several years.
Worse than almost as bad as Bud Light in the last 2 months.
In that same vein, you have a lot of owners that have been very highlighted as horrible people in the last several years. So I think, again, being a franchise business, ownership matters. And when you're getting national news articles written about how crappy your employees are being treated by owners of a franchise, it goes to what it's worth, right?
And it's not just the owners. It's obviously the Jared factor that didn't help anybody.
Sure,
right?
And that's what I mean by it hasn't the name of the brand name of it. And then third, guess what? With inflation and products being the profit margin,
shrinking.
in Subway, at least the last couple of years, has not only shrunk, but in some places, I know a person owns, I think, 6 Subways, 7 Subways, something like that, and I think half of his stores lost money during the last couple of years because the profit margins not only got smaller, depending on a bunch of different varying things,
and
right?
Workers, it's hard to get sandwich artists,
Workers, cost of the food product itself, and then cost of, depending on where you are, rents went up and stuff like that.
Right.
So the squeeze.
Why be a sandwich artist when you can be a regular artist? You know what I'm saying?
So
you could be just as broke as a regular artist instead of being a sandwich artist.
They've been getting hit from several sides, is the
Right.
point. So Subway as a franchise is not worth, in my opinion, today what it was worth 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Oh yeah. Listen, if there's a certain amount of like short-sightedness when it comes to certain and I would say that and I always hesitate to use the word greed, but I think sometimes people are so greedy that they have this short-sightedness, they have this belief that the value of their product or service will just be going up in perpetuity, and that's not the case.
It never goes down, right? It just continues to increase.
And so my view is always like, get while the getting's good. Like if somebody today offered me, a couple $100,000 for one of my businesses, have it. Just take it. Because I'm gonna go find something else or something different to do with that. So my thought is here, like Subway without this, potential investment has already been redoing their logo, redoing their menu, trying to get more internet influencers to talk about their brand. And I'll just say, as Market Fire Podcast, we would love to be Market Fire presented by Subway. I'm a Jimmy John's guy, but I'm also a whore. So if you pay me, we'll be a Subway brand.
I enjoy Subway because I enjoy a hot sandwich. And you can get anything toasted. So I don't like cold sandwiches. I'm not a big cold sandwich guy. You don't go to
Thundercloud like a normal Austin person?
No. Okay. If I'm going to get a sandwich, I go to... Now, my wife, big Jimmy John's.
Yeah.
Big Jimmy... But, why? Meatball sandwich from Subway? Come on. That's...
Okay.
It's good.
Well, you want to know what I do is I buy the bread from Jimmy John's, and then I buy meatballs from Aldi. And I'm not kidding. Yeah.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that either. But so they're not going to get what they want to get, and it just comes down to whether the ownership of the friend, which I don't even know who currently is, to be honest with you, the ownership, are they going to take less to get out from under it? Because they want out for a reason. When you're selling these big conglomerates like this, the owners want out for a reason. Whether it's they're wanting to do something else with their money, or they're wanting to get out of it and just retire, or whatever it is. The
other thing, sorry to interrupt you, but the other thing to calculate here is sometimes what it takes to really do something with a legacy brand like Subway is you need new eyes. You need fresh eyes who are going like, hey, why are we selling paninis? Like, all we have to do is add a press, and all of a sudden, every sandwich could be a panini. And then, now your Subway is now the house of paninis, and everybody's buying paninis from you.
Well, sometimes you have to have, and again, we've talked about this with Michael Dell. Michael Dell wanted to take it private so that he could do to Dell Computers what he thought needed to be done to make the company better. And he's done it twice now, right? I think with Subway, there's a lot of things that need to be changed. Current ownership would probably have a hard time changing those, where if they change hands, then the new ownership can do whatever the hell they want. They can make a bunch of changes and say it's because of the new ownership. Does that make sense?
Of course.
And then they can tell all these owners and franchise owners and whatever, hey, you're new owner, we own everything now. Yeah, this may have been the way you did it the last 10 years, but this is the way we're going to do it now. We're legally now.
They get to restructure their
agreements and everything else. Yeah. It's a way to get out of bad deals, you know what I mean? Bad contracts, all that kind of stuff.
So Subway was co-founded by Freddie DeLuca.
Freddie DeLuca. That's a very Italian name right there. Yeah. Little
that is.
Yeah, little gabagoo. Little gabagoo.
Right. All right. All right. So this next one, Shark Tank. So we actually know someone who was on a cruise with Daymond John.
We do? Who do we know?
Yeah. I can't remember the guy's name. I'll explain who it is to you off air.
Right.
And he said Daymond John was the rudest, most terrible person he's ever met in his life.
Well, he's like 5 foot nothing. He's a tiny, tiny man. Not that makes any difference. Don't.
Hey, you're not exactly 6'4" yourself.
All right. Well, I'm 5'7".
Yeah.
All right. I'm right there.
I know we are the same height. So this comes from Fox Business, the best news channel ever. So Damon John files a restraining order against one of the Shark Tank companies he invested in. And here's what I'll say is interesting about this. Now, I'm going to say some stuff. You're not going to like it. Life goes on. There is a dialogue in venture capital about how certain communities of people have trouble getting funding. Minorities, black people, women, those kinds of things.
Sure.
Now, this is a black investor investing into a black company, and they're not liking each other. Again, moral of the story. Just because they have the same tan and he gave them money doesn't mean that it's going to work, right?
Why does that even have to be a question here? Why are you even bringing it up? This is two people. This is a family business and an investor having a disagreement. This happens every day. The race that these two people are should not matter to you, Danny. Why are you even bringing this up?
Just because people say there is a belief out there that the reason why minority-owned businesses don't receive funding is because there aren't enough venture capitalists, and what they're portraying is this notion that if there was venture capitalists that are a part of these groups, minority groups, that everyone would just hold hands and we would all skip down the street and everybody would get funded. That's not what's going to happen.
I have no opinion and no bearing on that. I'm taking the story for what it is. What it boils down to is transparency. I went and watched this lady's TikToks that's where she kind of described what's been going on the last 8 years. Right?
Yeah, it's the daughter of the. So I think it was a football player, a former football player, who developed a boneless rib, and he could freeze them, dry freeze them, and ship them. He had some sort of process that was
better than everybody else's. It's
proprietary.
It's barbecue, right? It's barbecue joint. It's food services. It's what I mean.
Yeah, but it's sold in like frozen food aisles at the grocery store. Yeah.
But this is a transparency issue, according to. And when you say we all have a tendency to think of like restraining order as a physical thing, like I need you to stay 100 yards away from me. In this case, we're talking about this girl is going at, and it's the daughter.
That's why we have to do the show over Zoom.
That's right, Danny. I have a restraining order against Danny. And vice versa. He has one against me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, I'm a larger man, so his is larger than mine, and so anyway. It's this girl, I say girl, it's the daughter that's part of the business, is going on TikTok and other social media platforms and just bashing this guy about, it's essentially boils down to transparency. Damon has set up his business in such a way that he has corporate lawyers, running these things that he invests in, and these lawyers are setting these investments and contracts up in such a way where they control all the money.
Yeah,
so even though Bob's Barbecue or whatever barbecue it's called, I forget, is the name on it, but when the checks come in from Walmart, from whatever else, they're going into the corporate lawyers' accounts, not into Bob's Barbecue accounts. And guess what? It's Bubba Barbecue.
Bubba Q.
So Bubba Q. So the money's going into these corporate lawyers' accounts and then is being dispersed. And because the way the original contract was set up from the venture capital company, they don't have to disclose to Bubba Q what all the costs and stuff are associated to. So they're essentially just getting a check, and these checks that are coming in don't match what's coming into the company. So one of them, she slated one contract that they signed with a new grocery store or whoever
Whatever, yeah,
was gonna,
distributor.
distributor was supposed to bring in one particular quarter something like $500,000, $580,000, or something like that. But when it was all said and done, their part of that they got from these corporate lawyers was like $60,000
Right.
out of the agreement, and they're just looking for, can we say how we got here? How did we go from, right,
500 to 60. Yeah.
$500,000 to $60,000 is all the profit that that us, the creators, the name. So there's no transparency. It's finally gotten to a boiling point, right? Because and some of these people on social media be like, hey, you made a deal with the shark from Shark Tank. What did you expect was going to happen?
Right.
Okay. Even though I am a capitalist, I do believe in transparency. If you are taking advantage of these people, you should be held accountable for that.
Here's what I think. I think if you are, Al Baker, so Al Bubba Baker, he was, he played in the NFL from 78 to 90. Uh-oh.
No, you're good.
They freeze?
You're back up.
Okay. So he played for the Vikes, and here's the point. Get a good attorney. Have somebody read the contract for you.
Yeah, and that is, you are frozen, but you're coming back up now.
Okay.
But yes, and that's where you can say they made a mistake. Whoever was their lawyer in these corporate, and this is where, look, this is not new. Big people with knowledge have been taking advantage of people without knowledge for the history of mankind. Right. Companies have been buying up or partnering up with small companies and taking advantage of them forever. And a lot of it has to do with contracts and legal representation. The fact is probably when this inevitably gets out in court somewhere, is these people probably signed something they didn't understand. Right. And this company's probably following the letter of their contract. Because you just didn't realize you signed a contract saying that you're getting 10% of all net proceeds and I'm getting 90 or whatever it was. You didn't understand the wording of the contract you signed, and now you're bound by that, right? Right.
Yeah, no, and so, in business, it's about the agreements and the terms. So, the show like Shark Tank, what I find interesting about all of this is there's another show created by NBC called The Profit with Marcus Lemonis. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening with that show was, turns out he would go invest in these companies and kind of put them in a bunch of debt, and then he ends up foreclosing on them or something, right? So what ends up happening is that people think that these shows are going to come in and be their savior to their business. And listen, there is a small portion of these businesses have an excellent track record. They make $1 bajillion, and the co-founders or founders of the businesses are happy they went on to Shark Tank. But my guess is there's a graveyard full of businesses that have plenty of potential that if they hadn't gone on Shark Tank and got maybe funding from their bank, from the the SBA,
right, whatever.
Or they went to a local guy and invested with them, that they probably would still exist today instead of being in a graveyard of businesses on Shark Tank.
Of course, because when you seek out partnerships, you take on that partnership with that person or that company, right?
Right. Yeah.
And a different partner may have done better for you, and this is all the risk you take on when you make these kind of things.
And the other thing too is, people always bag on, at least on the show, on Kevin O'Leary for saying, hey, I want a smaller ownership stake, but in turn, what I want is a royalty. And he did that with that cupcake company, Atomic Cupcakes or something. I forget what they're called. Wicked Good. And, people are like, oh, you're going to suck money out of the business. Hey, I'd rather pay the guy on things that I actually sell than him just going, here's $50,000. I own 60% of your business now.
Well, because
right?
the dollar amount, and this is where you get into what, Rich Dad Poor Dad called rich people thinking, is the
Yeah,
reality is what Kevin O'Leary is giving them is peanuts, right?
right.
And if those peanuts turn into something, if they grow into a whole peanut tree or whatever peanuts grow on,
Yeah,
royalties last forever.
right.
There are
But the
people that
point
have made TV shows in the 70s and 80s that are still
they're still
making
getting paid.
hundreds of thousands of dollars. The people from Friends in the 90s,
Yeah,
those people, those actors and actresses, still make millions of dollars every year off of reruns of that show, right?
yeah. Like, why isn't David Schwimmer doing? Like, why isn't he getting work? He doesn't need to.
He doesn't
Like,
need
why
to.
isn't Ray? Why doesn't Ray Romano? Why isn't he doing any work? Doesn't need to.
Doesn't no because the
He's getting
royalties are
residuals.
insane, right?
Yeah.
So him going, hey, this $100 million is really nothing to him in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
If it's him going, I'm going to gamble on this one. I think I think the difference is
Right.
when you see a product like that and you go, hey, I think this one has real potential. I would
Right.
definitely go the royalty route. Now, if I'm going,
Right.
hey, I don't know, then why would you want royalties of something you're not sure is going to exist?
Right. So what I'm saying though is in this particular situation, if they had accepted a royalty deal, the structure of that royalty deal would have been far more straightforward. Firstly,
Mhm.
secondly, they would have a far bigger majority ownership of the business, to which they would not. You couldn't skeeve them like this, right?
Right.
You couldn't peel money off the top because they own the majority of the business. They could take the cash. They could hire a good legal team of advisors who could, and it would have been a much different deal. So
Here's a monkey wrench in all of this. What if,
Mhm.
and I'm just saying what if, I don't know
Yeah.
anything about this legal case as far as not a lawyer or whatever, but what if Bubba Q, his wife
Yeah.
and daughter, over this past 8 years, have gone to several lawyers and the lawyers tell you, hey, look, you screwed yourself. There ain't nothing
Right.
you can do.
Probably, yeah.
And then the daughter goes, you know what? I'm going to throw all of this on social media and just bag them and see if I can get Damon to eventually just cause them so much crap that they
Right.
come to us and say, hey, here's a check. Right? You
Yeah,
don't
just
deserve
shut
it,
up.
but just shut up. Take this, whatever amount of money it
Or-
is.
Right. Or they say, you caused us so much harm. Screw you. We're just going to unwind the deal. You can have your business back. And
Right.
whatever I invested is just, I'm going to mark down the loss.
Because if you can't win in court, win in the court of public opinion.
Right.
Right.
And that is what what she did. Very smart.
Yeah, and the court of
TikTok.
public opinion is powerful.
Right.
I mean,
Right, of
crazy,
course, yeah.
crazy powerful. So,
Right.
so I'm wondering again. I know nothing about this or whatever. I'm just saying that seems maybe that's the like
More
hey, you've
plausible
been
than
told
anything
that
else.
you can't go to court and win this, right? So
Yeah.
let's see if you can get some money out of it by getting them to shut you up or whatever.
Right.
So
Right.
anyway, I think that's all we got on that story. What do we got next, man?
The last two stories today. Twitter is getting a new CEO. Oops.
I'm going to add a really quick third story at the end of that because it's something
That's fine.
that came out literally yesterday and today, and it's a huge deal. Go ahead.
All right, let's do that then right now. Tell me what is.
So, again, neither one of us are huge golfers. I dabble
No.
enough, just enough. But came out this morning, and Danny may not know the backstory of this, but the PGA, I think we
Yeah.
did the story on Live and the PGA
Yes.
because the Saudi Arabians, I think you and I did a story on this back
Yeah,
when,
something like that.
Anyway, the point is, Live created, the Saudi Arabians created a
Yeah.
new golf
Tournament.
to compete with PGA as an organization.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And they offered people insane amounts of money to come play golf in Australia and all these different countries.
Wasn't Phil Mickelson's deal like 100-some million?
Oh no, it was more than that. They offered
Yeah,
Tiger Woods that didn't go. They offered Tiger Woods $750 million. And Tiger Woods turned it down, by the way.
Let me tell you something, okay? I'll make something very clear. If I'm Tiger Woods, I'm going, you want me to go to Dubai?
Yeah,
Do you know what the trim situation in Dubai is? It's everywhere. And if we know anything about Tiger Woods, this dude wants to be neck deep in all the Like, come on, bro. Like, the reason we love you isn't because you're good at golf. It's because you got that dog in you, man.
Right.
That's why we love you.
So Liv came out and they wanted to create it, and guess what? They have endless amounts of money over there, right? Like,
Yeah, because
there's 5 or 6 royal families that just they invest in everything, right? They invest in venture capitals. They're still printing money every day because of oil and everything. Right. So they've got endless depths of money, right? Yeah. So when they decide, hey, I want to create a soccer company, they have and pay stars to come over, and right, they want to create a golf company and go, hey, I want to pay celebrities. It's nothing to them, nothing, right? So they came out a year or so ago, started this company, started just buying people away from the PGA, buying stars. PGA was like, this is crap, you'll never be able to play in our tournaments again.
Yeah, didn't PGA say, like, if you go play for Liv, we're not going to let you play in our tournament?
You can't come to the Masters anymore. You can't come to these historic events.
And one of the Barstool guys was, I don't know if this is true, so I'm regurgitating what they said. They said something like one of the golfers had such a degenerate gambling problem that they basically took the money to cover their gambling losses and just have a little bit left up.
Not surprising, but hey, whatever it takes, right? So here's the point. The PGA kept Tiger Woods and these other people by saying, hey, we need to keep the PGA what it is, yada, yada, right? You can't leave us even though you'll get paid more money, whatever. PGA automatically came out and somehow they found another $20 million to give, the players and stuff like that, even though they found it in the couch cushion somewhere. But anyway, the big story
happens to me all the time.
So they convinced all these people to stay with the PGA, not take these big sums of money, and out of nowhere this morning, announced on Twitter, by the way, with no big golfers knowing, no big companies leaking it or whatever, the PGA has now partnered with Liv Golf. They will be one company. So all of these people, Tiger Woods, that turned out hundreds of millions of dollars, are just, the PGA just came around and said, they're giving us the money and sit.
Took it to him. Like, listen, that's so good. I love it. Can I tell you why I love it? And this is something I said earlier, or something I believe. There's only one kind of loyalty that pays in business, and that's loyalty to your own self-interest.
Right.
Listen, because I was just watching this documentary about a mafioso who was in the Chicago Italian mafia, who happened to be a Japanese individual.
Okay.
And in the end, they tried to whack him because he was getting arrested, and they thought he was going to talk. And he's like, I am loyal to this organization for decades. I was never going to talk because I'm loyal to the game. But then you treat me like this, and he happened to survive taking 3 to the dome. Okay, they put 3 in his dome, and he survives. The guy passes away. Happens in the 70s or something. Okay. He lives. He then goes, oh, you're going to do that to me?
Right.
I'm going to narc on you now.
Now I'm going to sing like a canary.
And he informed on everybody, and he just went through down details of like, this is this. And so then he died in 2004 after having 6 kids in a Chinese restaurant, or Japanese restaurant somewhere in North Carolina.
Good for him.
Georgia or something. But good for him. But the reason this is interesting, and this reminds me of that, is, hey, listen, you should have narked before they put 3 in the head.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, the PGA just literally took every dollar that was promised to these players, plus God knows how. So the numbers on this have not been released yet.
Yeah,
the only thing is
astronomical.
Oh, it's crazy. It's going to be astronomical because here's what. Look, I was watching some of this morning because, of course, it's been on Sports Talk and everything, all of these experts know nothing about it. They're all just speculating at this point. All these insider golf. I mean, this was literally out of left field.
And let me tell you, sorry to interrupt you again, but I'm more important. I'm the co-lead host here. So what I love about this, and some of you might be like, why is this guy cheering? I know nothing about golf. I don't care. Right. Here's what I do love, right? People who are too stupid to do what's good. Like, you offered Tiger Woods $700 million. He turned it down. Loyalty to the PGA. The PGA got no loyalty to you.
No,
they got loyalty
just
to themselves.
Yes, and here, so I agree with you there. But here's what I think I agree with that speculated that happened. Right, is the guy that runs the non-profit organization that is the PGA, which is bullcrap. Right, was somehow the Saudis called him up, or he called them up, whatever.
One way or the other.
One way or the other. They got on a phone call together. The money people on both sides, right? The decision makers, and the Saudis go, just give me a number.
Yeah.
What's the number? There's a number. What is the number? Yeah. Like, just tell me what the number is. And he said, it would cost, I don't know, $20 billion. Yeah. And the Saudi went, all right.
Like, well, that's not how he said it. He said, okay, my friend, we will give you $20 million.
I don't know anything about accents. My point is,
that is how they talk there.
Whatever the PGA said, the Saudi government was like, sure, right? And then, we would have paid you more, but you said this. Like, because they have endless money. It means nothing to them.
Correct. Yeah, which, so it's not technically the Saudi government, it's the Saudi...
The royal families.
Sovereign Wealth Fund. The Sovereign Wealth Fund. So the Sovereign Wealth Fund is a fancy way of saying the Saudi royal family, which is the Saudi government.
It's their money, nonetheless. Right?
But, and let me just say something. Like, people have a problem with that government for reasons. I don't, though. I kind of think they're badasses, and I like how
stop it.
They're just like, you have written something negative about my family. No. Please come to the continent.
No,
we must renew your passport.
No, as far as the country and the royal family have done horrible, despicable things. And
I don't know about that. I'm saying I don't know about that. I would love to live in Dubai. Okay. A lot of my cousins live in the Middle East, so I'm fine with all these people. And can I just say something? Okay, may I just say this? There is an entire region of the world where men are so wealthy, they're wearing pajamas all day and hanging out with their buddies, four-wheeling out in the desert, while you and I are sitting here doing a crummy podcast. I would rather be them. Okay,
right? Just pajamas all day.
Why are we doing this when we could be wearing a dress, tipping Toyota onto its two wheels on the side?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Being weighted on hand and foot.
Correct.
No. Say, look, okay. Still, horrible people, horrible things. However, and this is what everybody was about when the whole PGA battle was going on. Is
the Middle East forcing everybody into EVs? No. They're like, we love big V8s here. We love. Have you ever been to the Middle East, dude?
No.
Well, I haven't been since the 90s. I was in the Middle East in the 90s. You know what everybody's driving? Big V8 Cadillacs, big Caprices. They love our stuff.
Oh, I have no doubt. Look, and that was the big argument back then when the PGA and the LIV came about was, I can't believe these golfers are going and taking Saudi Arabia's money and whatever. Let me tell you something. We were talking about venture capitalists earlier. If you said, hey, I'm not going to buy anything that has Saudi Arabian money in it, you might as well starve to death, okay? Because Saudi Arabia and other countries like it that just have this endless pits of money are part of these big virtual capital companies and funds.
Venture capital
firms that have all this money that bring you all the products you like. There's probably nothing that you go to the store and buy that doesn't have some trace of that money in it.
So for instance, when Elon Musk acquired Twitter, people are like, look at the cap table. The sovereign wealth fund of some country is on there. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, hold on. You realize that they've owned a huge chunk of Twitter forever.
I think it was majority share. They were the majority shareholder.
Yeah. So the only thing that happened is they rolled over their investment into Elon's acquisition.
Exactly.
That's it. But the idea that you were using this platform as the spearhead of democracy and you just found out 8 minutes ago who funds it. And the other thing I love about that part of the world is like everybody's a prince something or other. And like, so you're telling me I could just go over there and wear the kabaya, the whole outfit, and I can just be like, I am Prince Mohammed Al Mohammed.
I need a title. If I'm moving to Saudi Arabia or whatever, I need a title. That's all I'm saying.
But you know what? These other two stories are not as good as this one, so I think we just call it there. What do you say?
Sure, absolutely. Because it's a good one to end on. It's
Yeah,
obviously it's a hot topic today.
hilarious.
The
Yeah.
debates. I'm curious to see, and we'll have to do a follow up story maybe next week to see
When they come out with more details about the deal
well
and how
the
much it costs.
numbers and how does this trickle out to the player. Are they going to compensate Tiger Woods something for the deal he didn't take? Are they going to, and some of these other people like because if I'm Tiger Woods, I'm going to the PGA this morning and being like, you told me to stay here.
I know.
And look, Tiger Woods is a billionaire. He doesn't need $750 million.
Hold on.
Show me a billionaire that doesn't need another $1 billion.
Right. So let me explain something. If I had 20 billion and someone's like, would you like an additional billion? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with it? Nothing. There's nothing you can't, like, if you have $200 million, there's nothing like a billion's going to do for you that 200 won't. Right.
Exactly.
But the point is, it's a scoreboard, and I want more points.
Absolutely.
Because that means, because it's very simple. Money, the more money you have, the better person you are. That's what that means.
That's not what it means. The whole money doesn't buy happiness is bullshit, and don't believe anybody that tells you that. If they tell you that, they are wrong. Because exactly, you are buying the wrong things. As a great comedian once said, I've never seen anybody unhappy on a Sea-Doo. Okay, you can't drive around on a Sea-Doo and be unhappy.
Yeah. You're going to find me on Lake Austin on a Sea-Doo, flashing an AK in the sky. And everyone's going to be like, is he allowed to do that? And I'm going to be like, I can do whatever I want.
I'm a billionaire. Who cares, right? So again, I'm curious to see how it all shakes out and how they smooth over with some of these big names, right?
Yeah.
Your Phil Mickelson and your Tiger Woods, and you know what I mean.
Yeah,
your Jordan Spieth, and I think Phil did. But again, how does that now work out? Now that they're partners, is he going to be able to come back to the Masters and that's what I'm saying.
Hey, let me tell you something. If I'm Tiger and I'm looking, so Phil got to leave, take the money.
Right.
And now that you guys are partners, he gets to come back.
I don't know. That's my question is like, where is this? What are the details about this? Right.
Yeah. Because now that they're colluding, they have no reason to pay Tiger $700.
Right. Like he's lost that. That is lost revenue.
Man, $700 million to go to a foreign country and just go.
Yep. Click. I'm going to use this. Yep, that's it.
Hey, God bless America. We invented capitalism so that a half Thai, half African American guy, or half Filipino, I don't know what his Asian half is, could go out there and go for billions of dollars. That doesn't make you romantic about free markets. That doesn't make you romantic about capitalism.
Can turn down almost $1 billion using a metal stick to hit a white ball in a hole.
Like, if that doesn't make you go, oh my goodness, capitalism is the greatest thing we ever invented. If that doesn't make you romantic about America, that an individual who may be traditionally viewed as having certain disadvantages goes for $1 billion, and then goes, I don't need another 700. I got to deal with Buick. What am I going to do? Buy a Bugatti? I can't drive it anywhere. I got to deal with Buick.
These kind of stories make Danny very excited, both mentally and I'm sure very physically. Yes. But anyway, so that's our stuff for this week. We're gonna be back hopefully next week or later this week or the week after that, or hey, whenever.
No, not whenever. We're gonna be back next week. We're gonna be doing shows every week.
Yes.
We were on hiatus. And then we came back, and then someone stopped answering my text messages.
That's not true. That's not true.
And then he said, if you keep texting me, Mrs. the Big Man is going to come out there and talk to you. I was like, oh, okay.
So, yes, we will be back at least weekly from now on. In a couple of weeks, you'll actually see me, because I've got traveling to do. So you'll see me in some different locations other than my beautiful studio here. But other than that, yes, we'll be here weekly. Danny will keep coming up with these stories that he doesn't know anything about.
As you guys know, I'm working with my business partners who are recently freed from the Romanian prison. So I will be over there helping, deal with some of the fallout of all of that for our new project, The Real World. So.
Anyway, anything else to tell these people?
Nope, not at this point in time, no.
All right, folks. We'll see you next time around.